back, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt. Mary Katharine Ham is the host of Getting Hammered, on which she appears 3 times a week with Vic Mattis. She is also now on Normally. Is that right? Have I got the title right, Mary Katharine?
Right. Normally with Carol and MK.
I haven't read that one. I haven't listened to that one yet, but maybe today. Mary Katharine, this is the tale of 13 seconds. First 8 seconds are Joe Biden, cut number 22.
The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters.
And that was 3 seconds. The second 8 seconds is cut 22.
I pledge to listen to experts, to those.
So, Mary Katharine, you're a big fan of the experts who kept the schools shuttered for 2 years.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
so I'm sure you're very happy with that pledge. What did you make of Garbage and Experts Day for the Democrats?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's fairly amazing that Joe Biden is incapable of being president. He shouldn't be president. They should have relinquished power and probably handed it off against interest to Kamala Harris, but that's the constitutional thing to do. But he can't be president, but he can very precisely ruin her message at very precise times. So last night she's standing up there saying all the normal things, right? And saying like, I don't think that people disagree with me are my enemies. And he's like, they're garbage. Half the country's garbage. It's pretty remarkable. And honestly, he's telling the truth. The fact that they think that Trump supporters are garbage is not a surprise. It's not a secret. They've been saying it for years.
They are walking it back this morning, I think, ineffectively, trying to blame the repulsive insult comic for Joe Biden's mind wandering to garbage. But they can't walk back. I will rely on the experts. It's so astonishing to me. After 51 experts told us Hunter Biden's laptop was fake, and it wasn't, and the schools were closed for 2 years because Randy Weingarten and the experts said it was dangerous to kids, and it wasn't. I don't think she has a prayer of winning, but I thought that about Barack Obama after 2012, and I know the polls are close. What do you think, Mary Katharine?
Yeah, I think that the appeal to experts actually is a thing that can be very polarizing among perhaps educated suburban women, as you point out, right? Because a lot of educated suburban moms had experts on their school boards or at their local public health tell them that their kids couldn't go to school for 2 years. This is just one example of where the experts have been wrong. You noted the 51 intelligence experts who told us that Hunter Biden's laptop story was Russian disinformation. There is a blind spot for people on the left and in the media where they think if we just keep saying these things, if we just keep making appeals to authority, people will understand that Trump is bad and he doesn't tell the truth and he's not an expert and doesn't employ the right people, whereas we do. The problem is they've lied to people and employed the wrong people and not and deceived people and not been experts. And it's all quite transparent. And so people are weighing these two things against each other, and being told that Trump is full of it doesn't fly as an argument anymore from people who are full of it.
You have been a voice for COVID accountability, and I want a national commission to look into what we did wrong, because we have to rebuild credibility in the public health agencies, or we'll never be able to survive an actual lethal pandemic beyond that hits children. That's the nightmare, not older people. COVID was nightmare enough, but a second nightmare can come, and we need people to be trusted. Do you think Trump will do that, a national COVID commission?
I think it's trickier for him because he had a bit of a hand in the beginning of the shutdowns, right? Now, I think that he backed off quicker than so many other people did, and I appreciate that. And he advocated for opening schools, which is one of the reasons that people got so angry about opening them and got so stubborn about it, because they wanted to be in opposition to Trump, which is an insane way to govern, as we see with the border. So it's trickier, but I think that he's open to listening to this idea. And I think it's vital because, as you say, something else is going to come down the pike. And right now, the issue of public trust is a giant one that people are sort of overlooking. By the way, have you noticed any COVID questioning in these debates? It was one of the biggest issues of my entire living memory, and no one's asked about it because the press largely just agrees with the left's shutdown and taking away of all of our civil liberties for that time, and they don't want to discuss it. So I hope that in the Trump administration, this is something they'd like to discuss. And I appreciate
Now,
the
Mary
Republicans
Catherine,
for
I can't talk about the Washington Post directly because I work for them. I have a column in the Post today. And Jeff Bezos' letter has gone everywhere, but I want to talk to you now and then for 5 minutes after the break about podcasting. But I think if someone was going to write a book about the media, I said this on Ruthless yesterday. I sat in the chair that you sat in, only I began by saying, I'm not funny like Mary Katharine Ham. And so I think, you did me a disservice by being very funny because I don't do funny. But I had fun with those guys, and Ruthless is fun, and Getting Hammered is fun. I think if I was to write a book about the media, I would title it Collapse. Is that a good title for what's happening right now?
I think you're right, and I don't necessarily want it to be in collapse. I'm the daughter of a newspaper editor. I want to help me help you guys, but they refuse to be helped.
They won't help. There won't be. Now we're going to come back with Mary Catherine and talk about first jobs in college and podcasting. Welcome back, America. In a recent edition of Getting Hammered, Mary Catherine and Vic Mattis were talking about Vic's Hallmark card store days, and Mary Catherine saw and raised him by reporting that she had delivered the Atlanta Journal-Constitution on the University of Georgia campus. I just want to know for how long, because I delivered the Boston Globe and the Harvard Crimson for 7 months until I kept falling on my butt on the icy sidewalks, which they would not shovel, and I quit and became a lifeguard, even though indoor lifeguarding is like the most miserable thing in the world. How long did you last? You didn't say that. How long did you last as a paper girl?
Well, I did it for one school year. So I did it from August to May, I guess. And I couldn't have done it after that because you had to have dorm access, and I moved out of the dorms. So that was the prerequisite for that job. But yeah, I did get up at 3:30 or 4 in the morning for 7 days a week for the entire year of my freshman year of college.
I went to lifeguarding because
my grades were okay.
Yeah, I just think the world divides among those college voters between those who worked during college and those who didn't. Did you have a job in college for all 4 years? Because I did.
Yes, I did. I was mostly a nanny and babysitter, which is kind of a cush gig, frankly. But the newspaper delivering I did on I did the newspaper delivering on purpose to set up guardrails for myself because I was on scholarship, and if I did not keep my grades up, if I went out drinking, that wasn't going to go well for me. And so I was like, if I have to be up at 4 in the morning, I can't party, and that worked out great for me, and I stayed in college.
Well, I do believe that everyone should listen to the Getting Hammered episode because it's hilarious. Vic working at the Hallmark store and Mary Catherine delivering the Atlanta Journal-Constitution to drunk frat boys is very amusing. Now, not amusing. If I titled my book Collapse, I would title my book, you know how Woodward uses one-word books, titles, they work. If I had to do one for the Harris campaign, I just call it Fiasco. It's an utter fiasco. Is there anything redeeming about this campaign?
Look, I don't think they had a plan beyond vibes, right? That once the vibes fell out, they were done, and they don't know where to go. They're yelling too many things about Trump. The things they're yelling about Trump are insane sounding, and then she goes on stage and tries to say, I'm the normal person, I'm the rescue from chaos. The problem is Biden already sold himself as the rescue from chaos, and here we are. And she's part of that administration. So it just, none of it makes any sense. Now, that doesn't mean she won't win because we are a closely divided country. But I'm not sure she's making the sale, Hugh.
I don't think so. In fact, I want to play for you cut 20 from earlier this week. Kamala Harris, in one of her disastrous string of interviews. I mean, she's been bad from Dana Bash to Call Me Daddy to the Club Shay Shay. Have you listened to Club Shay Shay yet with Kamala Harris?
Look, I listened to Brene Brown. I haven't listened to Club Shay Shay yet, partly because I know it's going to be so painful because you have to have a personality to go on long podcasts, particularly ones with hosts with personalities.
That was that's the low point. Club Shay Shay is the low point. But here is Kamala Harris with a local reporter, WDIV, Detroit NBC, cut number
What's your
20.
message to Michigan voters in terms of the economy? We have auto workers who are being laid off and those who fear that they might be laid off. The average person can't afford groceries or their rent. And recent polls in Michigan show that Michigan voters believed that Donald Trump would do a better job with handling the economy and bringing jobs back. What do you say to that?
Well, let's start with this. I come from the middle class, and I'll never forget where I come from.
Mary Catherine, can you believe she did that?
She has no ability to be better than this. That's the answer. And can I offer a comparison? I went back to look at the interviews that sunk Sarah Palin. Famously, the question that Katie Couric asked her about what does she read was the worst of the answers. The rest of them are basically fine. She's fairly conversant. I would say that Kamala Harris's answers, 75% of them are that question about reading for Sarah Palin. Like, they're that non-specific. They're that disastrous. Like, and I know that the left would recoil at this, but Sarah Palin's interviews as vice president, as that vice presidential candidate, far, far better than the average Kamala Harris performance during this campaign. Far better.
You know, Mary Catherine, I made a list on air. I'm a lot older than you, but I have been in campaign since 1976, and I listed all the candidates, and I am quite certain Kamala Harris is the worst candidate to ever run for president in my lifetime, and in my adult lifetime. And I think Tim Walz bested Sarah Palin as the worst candidate. Sarah Palin had a pretty good campaign, except for the Katie Couric interview. She had a good debate that redeemed it. Do you agree with me? They're just terrible, awful candidates.
They're really not good. They're comically bad. They're puzzlingly bad. People who have been in the public eye for a very long time who cannot speak in public confuse me. And I thought Walz was going to have at least a leg up on her in that capacity, and yet he went on the debate stage, and look, JD Vance is very good, but he went on the debate stage and was just bad. He was bad. He didn't know his facts. He wasn't smooth. He couldn't pull it together. He couldn't recover from bad answers. And it's just, they don't have the skills that are necessary to run a campaign for president. It's quite obvious.
So let me close this way. The Post column I wrote today is what will MAGA evolve to when Donald Trump wins? And I am hoping it is to keep America good and safe, to put the good back into the greatness and the safety on a personal level. How do you think, you know, he's got 4 years, and I think he'll rebuild the military. I think he'll be tough on our enemies. What do you think? What does it change to after Trump?
Well, I think the fact that JD Vance is the sort of standard bearer after Trump is a clue of where it's headed. He is the head of this sort of intellectual wing of the populist Trump movement. I appreciate that because I think he thinks through things. I do not always agree with him, but this is the thing about people are confused about me because I've never been a huge Trump fan, but I will defend him. And the reason is because I've lost that argument within the party. Right? There are people I would have liked to have been the nominee who did not win this time around. So I have to look at this party as an alternative to Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. And that's a very stark difference for me. So I'm not sure that this party will be, and this movement will be fighting for the things that I care about as much, like fiscal conservatism, for instance, that nobody cares about anymore. And I wish it would. I am not as protectionist as they are. I might be slightly more hawkish. But I'm willing to listen because I lost this argument and other people in the party's votes are worth respecting. And I don't think Trump supporters are garbage, as the president was happy to say last night.
But arguments are ongoing as we learn from 64 to 68 to 76 to 80. Sometimes arguments take 20 years. Mary Katharine Ham, I'll listen to Normally today, and I'll be listening to Getting Hammered. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you very much.